It is a Thursday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, BB3 TV. We are back here with, of course, everyone knows me. I'm Dom. This is Back from the Dead, the near-death experience and more. So tonight we are doing a near-death experience conversation, but also we will be talking about more. We have an individual here tonight, over 20 years and more in the paranormal field. Without further ado, let's bring in Patrick Cross.
Yes, sir.
Patrick, how are you, brother? Thank you for being
sir.
here. All right, so you got 20 plus years in. Yeah, absolutely. You have 20 years experience in the paranormal field, but first we're going to talk about your near-death experience. So the floor is yours, brother.
Well, prior to that, actually, waking me up and visually happening, I've had a lot of ghost experience. I grew up in a haunted house back in the 70s. I had a lot of psychic and paranormal experiences that, through the years grew more and more, and the things that I was just trying to find out and explain. But I was doing a heavy load of work. I was doing a lot of stuff. I was running here, I was running there. I was spreading myself too thin. My energy was just going down. And maybe it was a wake-up call, maybe it wasn't. Maybe God said, I'm going to hit you with it and blast the shit out of you. And maybe you start, getting back to normal. But I was doing a lot of different things and jobs, and working and like stuff like that, So back in 2012, hectic lifestyle, you just don't slow down sometimes. I was walking home. And it was those years where it was really a lot of bad rain here in Ontario, Canada. Just tons of rain all the time. And it was like a cold ice rain too. So it was just getting into the fall season. This was in October, right before Halloween. And walking home. And we have a lot of trees, of course, and everybody says, to walk around the trees when it's raining, make sure the lightning, nobody's going to, be careful. And I had an umbrella, of course, and it's one of those old, it wasn't wood, it was a metal thing, you carry them around, you just figure, okay, I'm getting smoked regardless. So I'm walking towards my house. It was maybe about 100 yards from my house, and right in front of me, this lightning just bolts, like it was thunder, lightning, everything, just, the lightning came down. I saw flashes, and how you count, per mile every second or something, and it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tells you how many miles that the lightning is. Right. And it was right in front of me, bang, and it just hit a tree right in front of me, maybe about 20 feet away. The tree went like literally lit on fire and got hit by lightning, and the fingers of the lightning literally, I guess, trailed off and hit me, and hit me right in the shoulder. And you know how lightning goes, it just went all the way down to an exit point. And I had rubber boots on at the time. Luckily I had work boots. Went right down and through my leg and through my foot. And oh my God, it was just like I had obviously hit by lightning, right? Just right. Like electrified. And I went down. And I just saw smoke coming off my leg. I saw, my boot going up. I go, oh my God. And then people were coming around. All I remember is somebody saying, call the ambulance. And I just passed out. I just went, oh my, that was it. And all I saw was like, for the time that it said I was out for maybe 5-10 minutes. The ambulance came, the ambulance was on scene. All I saw was lights, colored lights everywhere. And I just felt this whole floating feeling going on my body. It's like, the whole pressure of your body is left. It's just, oh my God, is this it? I'm thinking, what's going to happen? I'm like, am I flying, or am I just, I was so euphoric kind of thing. But I was so visually alert, inside, like psychically alert, but I couldn't do anything because I was numb. I was unconscious, right? Right, so right. I'm aware of my surroundings, and I'm hearing people talking and this and that, and oh my God, get them to the ambulance, and they have defibrillators, right? And they have all the stuff on the ambulance, right? They're right there. They put me in the stretcher, and I could literally see everything they were doing, like from above somehow, visually, but I was out of my body. I don't know how I can explain it. And freaked the shit out of me, because I thought, well, this is it. I'm going to meet my maker. That's it. And then going 1, 2, 3, 4, hit, and then the jewels and everything else. So the feeling. And they did this about two times, and then when they're counting the times, it was about into a minute. And I was still showing flatline. I was flatlining. And freaked me out because I'm going, no, I'm coming back. I want to come back. This is me telling them.
Yeah.
But I obviously is my conscience, right? My psyche. So they did it one more time. They said, okay, well, we're going to pronounce the guy dead. It went 2 minutes, 22 seconds. And they pronounced me dead. And they said, okay. And one of the women said, no, he's got a pulse. He's going to come back. So she was rubbing my arm, in the veins where your pulse is.
Right.
And then they did it again. And then bang, I just almost like blew up. I just woke up, came back out and was gasping for air and everything. I said, just water. And my whole leg was just sizzling, like you've just put an electric cord on your leg and it keeps going and you can't stop it. And it was like, oh my God. And it's like, even though it was still smoking, my leg was starting to see all the burns and all that in your leg. And it was more damage between, I guess, my ankle and my foot. I went to the hospital. I just felt this just electricity going through me all night. They gave me painkillers. They gave me stuff. Obviously I was electrocuted. And how many volts is a lightning bolt? I don't know.
Oh, shit,
but
I don't know.
I literally survived, and I was in the hospital for a good 2-3 days. I just kept passing out, right? And then I wake up. I was so dehydrated from this activity, but it's like my body had left one side was totally gone. I couldn't feel my leg, couldn't feel my arms, couldn't feel anything, but the rest I was fine. Yeah, they just feel this whole, like it's like electricity. You plug in an electrical outlet, and it feels like it's going through your body all the whole time. Oh my God, it's like I was plugged in, and finally they said it dissipates. They give you this stuff or something to calm it down, and they bring your system back and they nurture it, and it just eventually went away. But oh shit, I couldn't even walk for like after I finally got out of there and I went back home. I was released out of the hospital the third day. I could finally walk, but I couldn't really, do anything. And it took me another week to recover. And they said it was mostly tissue, right? That has been burnt. Literally, like you get fried. They put it in a frying pan. So it's like, oh my God. It's but I had so much psychic energy coming through from that jolt. I just thought I saw angels. I saw everything. I saw hell and earth coming back and forth. I couldn't really sleep. I was going in and out of conscious, unconsciousness. Just never want to have anybody have an experience like it, but you have an in and out of body experience. So you're living in then subconscious and in conscious, right? Consciously your mind, and then you're out of your mind. So it's like, something, Einstein would have discovered, but weirdest freaking experience I ever had. Luckily, I survived it. I had to take like a week off of work. I didn't have a heart attack, thank God. I was younger then. And man, it woke me up. I just God gave me another chance. And hit by lightning. It was in the news. Struck by lightning survives.
What's crazy about it too, you touched a word, euphoria. And this is a word that's been used from some of my past guests on this subject. It's a feeling as if the floating feeling, but like a calmness, a peace.
Yeah,
is that pretty much what it was?
Yeah, it's like you're feeling fine up there, but you're really physically feeling bad down there. Yeah, you get a whole piece of feeling like you're like being transformed, like lifting up. Excuse me, like you're very godlike state. You're almost angelic. I don't know how to describe it, because I just felt like an aura around me. Maybe there was an angel protecting me. I didn't see any per se God coming or angels or like that. I just very open consciously from out of your body, that I could actually pick up anything energy wise and feel it and touch it. Like it's just so amazing.
It's absolutely intense. I want to say hi to a couple people in here real quick as we go on. I want to say hi, Marla Williams, Sharon, Will Dollar. I hope I said that right, or Wild Dollar. Bob Burnell, how are you doing, my friend? Patricia is there. And then I want to say hi to Kisa. Kisa, thanks for stopping in, and everyone like, share, follow, and check it out. All right, brother. So going on with that, from you said you had a second near death as well too. We'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about the the mindset it gives you after you've had these experiences. So you've had a second one, you said, right? With a sickness or something?
Well, I had pneumonia. 3 months after that happened, I had pneumonia in January. Same January 2013, I got it really bad. And I don't know if it was related to that, but for some reason, I had an infection, or I got a chill in the back of my spine. And it could have been my immune system being, still being, trying to be healing from the lightning. I don't know. But from October till, finally January, around the second week of January, it just hit me. I was carrying stuff, and like we're right on the side, same area, on the back where I had originally the lightning bolt. I just got this whole infection thing. I couldn't lift it, and my leg went numb again. I didn't think much of it because a lot of flu was going around back then, and there was like a Russian flu or something. Maybe I caught it, outside, and my immune system was something like that. So went to the doctor, and they just said, "Oh yeah, it's just a cold. It's just a bad flu, whatever." But no, it's just how something just doesn't feel right, and I couldn't. I just started not breathing. I was coughing. I was coughing up phlegm. I was doing everything. And it got worse and worse, and I literally had to go to the doctor, and like the guy diagnosed me wrong in the first place. Finally, I went to the hospital, and they said, you got second stage pneumonia here, and the lungs were filling up with fluid and everything. And oh my God, I couldn't breathe. I don't know if anybody ever had pneumonia. You just cannot breathe any little breath, and there's water flowing inside your lungs. Got really bad, and they were almost going to drain my lungs because it was almost 75% full. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't walk, I couldn't eat, I couldn't do anything. All I was doing was throwing out water and phlegm out of my body.
Yeah.
Got on antibiotics. I was in intensive care for that. When they said I had an infection in my spine and it went into my lungs. So I had two things going then. My doctor was really not diagnosing me properly. And they said he could have died. So they fell on a heavy by antibiotics, went to the hospital again. Finally, I was getting better. But that, if anybody's ever had pneumonia or anything serious, you'll know the feeling. You just cannot breathe, and you're gasping for air. I wasn't on an oxygen tank, but I was okay. I was very physically fit back then, so to go down like that was just pretty hard because I was a really well built. Physically, vitamins, eating a whole bit. And if it wasn't for the fact that I was taking care of my body, I wasn't smoking or anything. Finally, I literally was on antibiotics for about 2 months, and I couldn't walk. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't get out of bed. So that was my second health problem, and I finally almost died from that. That happened from December, and I finally got well in March. I was able to go back to the work, and it was just brutal. So that whole series, I don't know if it led up to that. Just brutal. Like you don't want to get, if you get sick, I've never been sick in my life. The doctors before, I hardly went to the hospital. They go, "How did you survive, 40, 50 years without not going to the hospital?" Because I said, "Well, I'm well, I'm healthy. I don't do anything except work." But so finally got out of that and made me realize I had to slow down. The doctor said, I just was too much workload. I had too many things going. I was doing this, I was doing that. And I just took a break, and I said I had to get my life back, and then realized maybe it wasn't a calling to say, you got to slow down, do something else. And your health you're not going to be here if you keep it up. Right. So it was a big calling. And
that's what we're going to get into next, like a calling. All right, spiritually, this opened your mind up a little bit more, right? As we spoke earlier, a lot of people said it opened them
probably
up.
More. I mean, I've been psychic. Yeah.
Go ahead. No, because other people are saying religiously, but you were already psychic beforehand.
No, a lot of people, I've been psychic before because my mother was very psychic. I'm clairaudient, so I hear everything. When I started doing a lot of recordings, and earlier back in the 80s and 90s, it was amazing because I could hear like ghosts talking and recording and hear tell them the same thing that was going on. So I get major conversations talking to ghosts and spirits, and people look at me and go, what's wrong with you? And I say, well, this is what just happened. And they play it back, and it exactly happened. So, it was just phenomenal how this was going on. They were always interacting and contacting me. So I've been very easy to pick up energy, although I don't really see, but I hear and I sense.
Right.
And the more you are open to it, the more you attract, right? That's the way it goes.
Sure. Yeah. You have a question here. I'm guessing this is about the lightning strike. Did it leave a scar? Do you have a scar, Pat? That's what Sharon is asking.
I had it's kind of weird. I had kind of like a Harry Potter kind of a, you know, the thing on my side, on my left side for a couple of years. I thought it would never. It was kind of weird because you know how you watch Harry Potter and it's on his head. Well, I got a lightning on almost my ass, right? It was just weird. But I mean, I used to show people it, and it finally faded away, and I took stuff for it. And if you take vitamin E and stuff, but yeah, it was like electrical burn. I had electrical burn there, and I had electrical burn down my leg, which finally cleared up. Then I had electrical burn right from the exit point from where my ankle was. So what saved me was I had these heavy work boots, which were you know, rubber and well insulated. That was the only thing. If I didn't have that, I would have been dead out of it for sure.
Oh, all right. So when you talk about the spiritual side, like opening up your mind, we're going to get into this even more because you have 20 plus years in the paranormal field. Let's talk about this, where you started in the paranormal field itself.
Oh my God. Well, I didn't really want to be a ghost hunter or anything like that. I fell into it really because I grew up in a house here in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Like anybody else, was a bungalow, a 3-split bungalow, and my father bought it for really cheap. At the time, it was maybe about 10 years old when I moved in, and he bought it on the basis. And in those days, when things happen or somebody dies in a house or gets killed or murdered, they didn't disclose it. Oh, here's a house. Here's a great deal. Here's this happening. So it was all a new settlement going on in this area, all being built, you know, all being fixed up, and the land was being taken over and, you know, brushed out and cleared, and all these houses were being built. My dad thought, oh, amazing, you know, house. How come it's so cheap? So the real estate guy told my father, well, I have to just tell you that there was a murder here. You know, some guy, some kid killed his girlfriend and killed the mother and father and chopped them up in the house. And my dad, being in the war, he didn't really care because he goes, oh yeah, I've been in the war. I've been through, you know, being shot or being on the, you know, ships, everything else. He didn't really care. He goes, oh, that's nothing, right? So my dad never believed it. He never had a belief in ghosts or hauntings or anything. He just said, oh, that's all crazy stuff. Because he was a Bible thumper. He was one of the really, you know, really to Christ and Jesus. And if you didn't go to church, you got beaten the next day and stuff like that. So I was forced to go to church all the time. Oh my, you know, it was not good. So yeah, we got in the house, and you know, after a while, but maybe a couple months later, things just started happening. You know, it's like doors opening by themselves. Okay, you're sitting there, and that door opens, and then my room was really bad. I was like facing probably like the west side, the far end of the house, but it was always freezing cold. Like it could be 90 degrees in the summer. It was freezing cold. It was always cold. So I would hear, you know, voices and screams, and I hear like wake up, and there'd be a screaming woman going, you know, and there's all these things being dragged across the floor in the basement, luggage, and my dad wouldn't hear nothing. No, hear it, and I go, don't you hear that? And then no, we don't hear anything. And it's like, oh my God! I went down, and you know, you see scrapes on the floor, but there was nothing there. It was just totally bizarre. So I finally found out the story that this guy named Greg Barrett had lived there. Or sorry, was a boyfriend of the woman, the girl that he was dating. He was dating the girlfriend of the house, and the parents didn't like the guy. So they basically said, no, we don't want you around anymore. We don't want anything to do. And he got really pissed off. He goes, well, if I can't have her, I can't have anyone. So I guess one night he confronted them with an axe, and he has attacked the parents, the mother, the father, with an axe. He chopped them up. Girl was screaming, and he chopped up the girl and buried all the body parts around the house, right? Left the body. It was like a Lizzie Borden thing, only this guy was just, he went nuts. He just went off the edge. So police came, of course, and he admitted he did it, and he goes, well, I did it, and I killed her, but he went to jail for life. And that was a good 25 years ago or more. And apparently it was a big thing in the newspapers back then in the 1970s. But a lot of stuff was hushed up. Nobody wanted to talk about it. Oh, no, that happened, that happened. Nothing was like now it is an investigation. Like nothing was always, concrete back then. So a murder happened. Oh yeah, shush. Nobody has to know the neighbors, right? So here we are living in this house, and it's like, okay, it's a murder house. And my dad's going, well, I'm not selling the house because there's a murder here and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it just got rapidly worse. Like there was this whole, and I also found out the house was built on Indian ground. It was sacred ground. And all these Indian areas and the cemeteries were all wiped out and just run over with bulldozers. So our house is really like on sacred ground and just, tore up all these Indians that were in the land, right? Which really didn't help either.
Yeah.
So we're getting all the manifestations of things and ghosts and spirits coming through and being open. I mean, at an early age, it was just contacting me. So there was things coming down the hall at night. I could see black figures and everything. My dad go, oh, I'm closing the door. And I'm left, like they're all, thanks a lot. They're all coming after me in my room. So I'm like, oh, and I'm running and closing the door, hiding under my covers, and things were after me. It was just brutal. Arms and hands coming out of the mattress, out of the floors, like hairy creature clawy things. Oh my God, things out of the closet. I was going, and you couldn't talk about it back then because nobody knew what you're talking about. I mean, I literally see blood dripping from the ceiling. There was a cupboard in our kitchen where you open the door and there's drips of blood. I didn't know what it was. Like kind of reddish, sugary things, and I realized that was blood formulated after somebody who had died, right? Or glucose. That's what it was. So this stuff was coming down. I'm like, oh, I'm just cleaning it up. My mom, she just always clean up and it would be dripping again.
Wow.
Just phenomenal stuff. And it got worse and worse. Things were crawling through the walls, and all the stuff you saw on TV, like poltergeist, that always happened. But the thing is, that never happened before because nobody could explain it before TV. So this was before television, and I'd be telling all these stories, and that's where a lot of those real stories came from people like us who were claiming these things were going on.
Right.
At that time, literally the walls moving and bodies moving and things crawling on the ceiling. And people thought it was made up, and no, this was real. This was honestly, I didn't have video back then. I didn't have, you had one of those stupid cameras that you push and then the thing comes out. That was all I had. Had no way of documenting anything back then. And people thought, you're going to lock you up if you're nuts, right? So I couldn't say a lot. I was going crazy, it was just crazy. Stuff was getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, that's crazy because when you really think about it, like you just said, with no cameras. When you have no cameras, I mean, that's how Hollywood got their ideas for a lot of this. When people are, when they get the stories of what you're telling, and then like other interactions, what other people experience. So that's how they know some of this shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it didn't just come invented. Let's do this effect because it was real. I was living it, and I had nobody to talk to. Like if you were into ghosts and hauntings back then, people thought you're nuts and want to lock you up. The things just go, oh, no, ghosts didn't exist. My dad, being a Christian, he said that's not happening, and his excuse was, oh, the house was settling. Like, no matter anything happened, anything was happening, oh, the house was settling. How does that happen after 20 years? He wouldn't acknowledge it, even though he locked the door and he was scared a lot of times that things were happening, and even banging on the door. And the one thing that he did acknowledge, which kind of freaked me out, was how they have those all in the old days. You had saloon doors, maybe in your kitchen, in your room. They kind of open up in their saloon, they swing back and forth. Anyway, my dad put those on. He thought it was cool in the kitchen. Well, one day we're all looking at it. We're going to the kitchen, and the doors literally swing open, and they stay open, and this big mist goes flying out. He goes, well, that never happened before. And he can't, he's trying to pull the doors, and the doors will not close. And these things are just supposed to, swing back and forth. So it's like he goes, So he had no explanation for it. But I think he was really scared back then. So, a lot of things were happening. Fires would start in the basement, just all these screams, sound like bodies being chopped up. So the end result was I finally confronted it. I said, okay, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to find out what's going on. Me and my brother were like, seriously freaked out. And we thought, okay, the bodies are buried around the house. We kept getting these visions that something was buried around the house in the garden, right? Somewhere
Mm-hmm.
on the side of the house. So my parents went away one weekend. They used to go away all the time. My brother, we get shovels, we get friends over. Hey, we're gonna, find a body. Well, that's all cool, right? No problem. Yeah, this is cool, like Scooby-Doo or something, and we start digging around. We start digging on the side of the house on the west side, and we go down about 3-4 feet, and bang, we just hit this, this big bag of something. It was just all plastic, really heavy plastic, all wrapped up. I still visually remember it. It's just like late in day, and the bag was all tied with an old rope, like almost like a naval rope or something, and you can see red blood and everything inside it. Just everywhere is blood inside. And we go, well, that doesn't really get any good. And go, now that we found it, what are we going to do with it? So we can't call the police because my father would be accessory to a murder, right? So we didn't know what to do. So we just go pile it all back up again, and all the kids ran away. It's like, oh my God. But that didn't really solve anything. So they're still there to this day. The bodies are all there. And
that house still stands.
It's still there. They've gone through 10 people. I've visited a couple times, and it's just phenomenally haunted. It's like the evil's taken over, and between the murders is taken over. And these Chinese people are now living there, and they're using all this red for protection. But I didn't tell them exactly what happened. So I didn't really disclose anything to the police because they would charge my dad, thinking, well, he would be accessory to murders, right? If we did really pull up the bodies.
Right.
So what can you do? And it's still there. So I don't know. It's still going on. It's like, oh my God, this is going to go on forever,
That's intense. It's intense. So
Yeah,
from the, all right. So
I was so happy to leave.
what a hell of a way to start your paranormal world with a situation like that. But throughout the years, okay, let's talk about what's going on throughout the years. You've done kind of demonology. You've been on TV. Let's dive into all of this. So where did it get to where you got on TV and stuff like this?
TV really didn't exist in the 70s and the 80s. Okay,
Right,
if you were talking about stuff, they were more interested in music or history or art. Okay, it was socially they thought why are you talking about ghosts and why are you on TV? So the only reason I got into this because I used it as a history thing. I said, well, I'm history. I was researching stuff, and they loved history back then. So that's how I based it on. Because if you talk about ghosts, they thought you're crazy. They didn't want to talk to you. So I said, historically, people have died here and lived and moved on. And I hooked up with a good friend back then who was just making his mark on novels. And he's now a famous Canadian author called John Robert Colombo, which you might have heard of him. He's written about 14 books now. And he was really interested in my stories because he goes, well, I'm going around, I'm checking houses out that are haunted in Toronto, and, you want to research it. Nobody knew what a ghost researcher was back then. We're just going to check stuff out what's happening. There was never a term ghost hunter and ghostbuster back then. Nothing ever came into play until maybe the Ghostbuster movies. Nobody knew what it was. They thought you're crazy, So they thought, what is that, like bussing, or are you a musician? What is that term? I thought it was a name for a band. Nobody knew what you were doing. So I went on and I told my stories, and I was talking folklore, and that's the only way I got into it. I go to different places and talk about history and folklore, and the old campfire things would come out and what happened, and scare kids and scare people, and this happened and it was creepy, and the guy came out of the woods and stuff like that. Was we're talking about log homes and logging, and all that was really interesting back then. The old campfire sit around and tell ghost stories, and that's how it got popular. From that, I got an interview with Maclean's magazine. I got other interviews from Toronto Star and Globe Mail, and then they started doing conventions, paranormal conventions, psychic conventions, because psychic was really getting into really being big in the 90s. It's just started a whole wave. Everybody was opening up and being psychically, open, and they were all trying to have all this. So I got hooked up with quite a few people, and I need verification. I said, well, what is going on? I need people to think I'm not nuts, because everybody else goes, well, if you're going nuts with me, right? So I finally was able to get into a community that would understand me and know what's going on. And then we could get into that stuff. And the more stuff I was doing, the more people were coming out and having, you know, things going on. My house is haunted, but I can't talk about it. Well, my farmhouse is haunted, and there's a dead body. Can you come over? So it went like that, and that, and that, and that. And then the more I was doing, people were just calling me because nobody else was doing it in Canada. Maybe it was bigger ghost stories were really big in Britain and England. That's where they were coming from, and maybe different parts of the States. I mean, the most famous story coming from the U.S. was Lizzie Borden. That was probably the most famous murder one at the time.
Yeah.
Then there was a cover-up about Marilyn Monroe, you know, that she was murdered. So there was a lot of different things going on, but nothing was really enhanced or taken over. The media really didn't frowned on. Nobody would want to do anything. The TV shows go, what? You talking about? We're going to talk about it. You're going to scare people. It's too gross. It's too graphic. We can't tell you that. You know, I get calls from the media. No, we can't interview because we don't understand what it is, and we don't want to talk to you because you're nuts. And these were TV stations. So I'd get the odd blurb coming on City TV and different TV shows, and it was on Fox. And then I finally got on City TV, who believed me. And then ghosts started taking over, or picking up. And I started doing tours. I was doing investigations of houses and hauntings in Burlington. And we hooked up with a place called Emma's Back Porch, which was started in 1910, and it was really supposed to be a one-off investigation, and it ended up being a whole 20 years investigation. And it's just closed down last year, but that's what took it off. And that was on a sci-fi show and a TV show, and they got to the City TV studios, and they got me in there, and you know, here's the Ghostbuster, and he's a real guy and real from Canada because nobody else was doing it. So I was labeled as Canada's most haunted ghost hunter, Canada's most famous. And I just got that label because nobody else was doing it, right? It was just, that's what it was labeled as. And it was just really cool because I had a background in psychology, TV and broadcasting, but I never expected it because it just fell into it, right? For all my experiences. And people believe me because I was passionate, I was honest. I didn't have to make it up because I could show them pictures. I showed them stuff was going on. Later on, we got into video and taping. I mean, I could mostly record more than I could tape because video was only getting into the old VHS things. And you had to go and play it on a VHS tape, and you had to do this and do that. So that's what was that was the media back then. If you record something, they put it on the VHS and maybe show them, and that was it. And they go, "How come it wasn't made up?" Stuff like that. So there was a lot of proof and skepticism going on to say, well, is it not real? Is it real? But there was no effects back then. You couldn't apply anything to make an effect because it was real, right? So then we had people around us and around everywhere to see, and watched it happen. And I validated everything that was going on and saying, no, this is not made up. It's all real. So, you know, it's crazy because I was like denied everything for like 10 years. And I just thought, well, I like doing this. It's fun. It was passionate. It wasn't making any money. And all of a sudden, it just blew up. It just blew up. Everyone go, wow, we want Patrick as a ghost thing. And I got calls from LA, New York, everywhere. And all these shows are offering me like thousands of dollars to go on this show. And I go, holy cow, what happened like years ago? Well, now we believe you. You know, great. We're going to pay you 20 grand to go on a show. And that's really what happened. And it's like weird. And then now everybody wants to be a ghost hunter. But it didn't work out that way because I did my research. I was a sound man. I did my recording. I did my documentation. I did my certificates. I studied sound. I studied environments. I was a recording engineer for to the TV studios and for broadcast and for bands. So I learned all the dynamics of recording and sound because it was my forte. I really loved it. And I got into EVPs, and that's how I really got into going recording, where you learn how to tune a room, where you learn how to do everything, sound recorders and decibels. Not like it is now. You put something there and there's a ghost. Like, come on. You know, there's so much research that people have ignored that they're all saying they're ghost hunters. Like, have you done like 10 years of research on how sound dynamics work? You know, how is it applied? How is the audio applied? How's the analog applied? You know how audio analog reels record? How the magnetics compose onto the tapes? All this stuff I learned because I was in broadcasting and TV and television. And recording studios, doing 24-track sound studios. So I worked at Toronto Sound. I worked at the studio famous for Heart in Vancouver, Mushroom Studios. I was in between doing ghosts. I was recording sounds and bands.
Wow. And that, you know, it's great that you said that because, you know, the I'm reading your bio right now. That's what I got on, because I want to touch base on a lot of things here. But just your knowledge in general of you learning made you a better researcher in this field. I mean, I think that's important for a lot of people to do. Just to keep learning and keep going. You know.
Well, you know, you got to look at the dynamics behind it. I mean, if you want to record, you got to understand the basis behind it. And whenever I do seminars or you know, talks or psychic shows, I tell them, do your research, do everything first, because you got to understand the fluctuations of what a mic does, what a cardio does, a dynamic mic, a 360-degree mic, how condensers work, and how you can isolate something to make it better, or record something, or you get off sounds that aren't sounds. You can actually cancel out a microphone by putting two microphones together, and you won't get anything. So all the stuff I learned by recording in the studios and sound and bands and dynamics. Not saying everybody has to do that, but I learned a lot how to do EVPs. Sadly, nowadays, everything is recorded and compressed. So if you're recording an MP4 and a different level of recording, you lose the highs and lows. You don't have the 100 hertz. You don't have the 40 hertz where all the ghost energy is. That's where all the spirits are talking. So you go, how come I'm not recording anything on the sound? Well, duh, you're not in the below frequency range, subtonic frequencies to know where the sound is, right? So it's common sense. Like, that's why everybody thinks I can just plug in a mic or a Sony mic and get a recording. It doesn't work that way. I still use analog tapes because analog is a full spectrum recording, no matter what. You can play it back, you can reverse it, you can slow it down. Whereas digital is good, but it's compressed. So you have to use them in both the same medium. I use different ones to record in different areas of the room. I use one and to verify another one to see if it actually works, right? And again, it's all hit and miss. Nobody says you can just record something and do it. The good thing is now we have recorders, we have cameras. Cameras can record audio, but you're not going to get the full spectrum, and that's the sad part. You can't you can't coordinate it. You can't program it. You can't, you know, figure it out. You can't do anything with it. It's just there. So until it comes back to everybody just throwing out a device or an app, it's not going to work for you.
All right. I completely agree with you on that one. I personally, I like the old school when it comes back to paranormal investigating. Actually, I read a book by Ted Van Son. It's called Think Outside the Paranormal Box, and it went back to old school kind of ghost hunting, where they didn't have cameras, they didn't have video devices. They just went back to old school, just ghost hunting in general. I mean, using balloons and strings and stuff like that, and bells. This was just a neat book. I'd have to send it to you, Patrick, so you could check this out and tell me what you think of it. But I just love the way
and that's true, because we didn't have a lot to work with. So you had what your equipment had, and they're all bulky stuff. Okay, you had big cables and microphones and all this stuff, and carrying this and that, and then a big broadcast thing and this, and they're all going, what the hell is that? It looked all great, but it was just like setting up a band, you know? So I remember, like, to go and do a ghost investigation, oh my God, it was like 50 to 100 pounds just carrying all this stuff there and setting up, and it took us like an hour and a half just to figure everything out. And then we hardly got anything anyways, right? Because it was so much involved to get the recordings working, phase variance, cancellation, noise, all that stuff, a lot of background noise reduction, all had to be considered, components of the audio. And then I was using other programs, digital, called Audacity, which is amazing, where you can finally edit and cut and fix the pitch, right? So you can actually segregate each little segment and get this close and go, wow, I heard that sound, and you can get it now. And nowadays you can do that quite easily. But anybody learning all that stuff and putting it all together, they would have said, what are you doing? Nobody would have cared, because it was a lot of work.
Yeah, and I like the way you said with the apps and shit like that. Like, you know, that's all bullshit. Like, you know, a ghost hunting app on your phone, there's just no way. I that's just my opinion, but I don't think that any of that shit is reliable sources to say there's a ghost in a house.
I mean, I did use one app that was kind of, people know this one. It's kind of good and it kind of not, called the Ovulus. You might have heard of it, and we used it at Casa Loma quite frequently. But it came down to the fact that I really realized that it's picking up your thoughts and energy of what you're putting out. So you say soldier, it goes soldier. You say dead, dead, because you're thinking that. It's picking up because it's right there. That's what it was doing, going, because if I had a tape recorder, it wasn't doing that at all. And so I have the tape recorder right beside the obelisk, and it was getting nothing but going, how are you talking about? The ghosts, you know what I mean? And like going,
Right.
you're scratching your heads going, that's not how it happened. That didn't happen at all. So it's like, is it real? It was great for audience. It was great for display, great for media, but I really didn't. I didn't put any bets on the Ovilus at all. And I know they've improved it, but how good can it be when you download it for 99 cents? Come on, really?
That's exactly what I'm saying. And all right, I'm going through your biography here. You have demonic encounters, as we talked about, attacks appearing, and you have demonic encounters, and you've been appearing in books, magazines, consulted upon TV shows, as we talk, news, media. We've touched upon that. Let's talk about ghost tracking tours and maybe the haunted case files. Let's talk about some of that work that you've done.
Okay, well, kind of again getting a lot of buzz media, shall I say, because we're doing really well with ghost tours here, and I was getting a lot of media attention and bringing we're having crowds, and we used to get maybe 5, and then it all started for some reason from 2007 and 8. We just hit. We were getting 50 to 100 people on a ghost tour. Everybody was into it because, we're telling the truth, and by then, if you stick around long enough, they believe you. Right. If you've been around enough times, maybe he is telling the truth. But I was also telling history. I wasn't just telling there's a ghost here, there's a ghost there, and people were very intrigued because we wanted to photograph actual ghosts and hauntings, and we got a lot of good results. And I have to say, there's things I cannot explain that happen, and I got a lot of that verified on my website, burlingtonghostwalks.ca. So I mean, it was just cool because I was there at the right time and I got stuff, and people go, I'm not getting a ghost. Why are you getting it? Well, if you're open to it, you'll get it. If you're negative, you're not going to get it. The ghosts are just spirits who died. And if they're going to be scared, you got to get used to them. They got to get used to you. They don't just appear and put a camera or a microphone in their face.
Absolutely.
So anyway, I did that. I was getting a lot of hype in media and TV and radio. And that's when reality TV hit in. Back in 2009, reality TV, bang, let's do this thing with interviews, get people on camera and talk about ghost stories. So my first real big one, well, besides TV show City TV, I was interviewed there all the time, was I got into Ghostly Encounters, which was produced by a company in Toronto called Wraith Productions. And Ghostly Encounters was picked up. Actually, before that, I was doing Creepy Canada. Anybody remembers that? Creepy Canada was the big one with all the reenactments. We did an interview. We walked through it. We were there. And Creepy Canada in Canada became really big in 2002. So it went from about maybe 2000 to 2006. That was the start of it. And then Ghostly Encounters was the next big one. I was on that, talking about my story from growing up on haunted house and all the rest. And that just went viral. It hit the media and it went all across Canada. Then it went to the States, got syndicated, and it was really good. And then Creepy Canada got syndicated and went to the States, and that was good. So I started becoming well known as a historian, a ghost hunter, researcher, all that kind of stuff. Continued doing stories and shows, and then a few more shows I think after that came. I was on ET Canada. We got hit on that one. Went all across Canada, world. We're a big investigation got on that with a haunted mansion. So I got hit on that one. That boosted me. Finally got ET because that's really hard to get. It takes miracles. It's one of those big shows. So I was, star-studded shows, and actually back then, Dan Aykroyd was behind the stage watching us all. So it's kind of cool. Yeah, we made it. Didn't awesome. Last too long, but we got on our 15 minutes of fame for the show. That led to more TV, radio shows all across Canada. I was interviewed and going to travel, and they pay for expenses. So I was traveling Vancouver, Canada, Toronto, Montreal, everywhere. Got into Fox News in Buffalo. Did a story on that about hauntings and a possessed guy. Very cool story. This guy was possessed and channeling ghosts, and we saw it all happen. And the table was moving up and down. We got all that recorded on Fox News. Just phenomenal. Fox 4. Phenomenal stuff.
Can people still find some of this footage?
Oh, I'm pretty sure they have it. It's archived. I saved what I could.
Yeah.
I saved a lot of stuff that I tried to record because then, back then it was all VHS.
Right.
So
Right.
then I've been transposing everything to, CD and video, right, to get on that
Yeah.
to record. But you could probably still archive it. That was really cool. And we got Global TV
Yeah.
was there. Other TV shows were coming out and doing it. We got into the big broadcast, and they finally had this idea: let's get people on TV and interview them. That was the whole thing about doing ghosts. That's how we'd interview you and a ghost, ghosts, right? So they
Right.
do take guys of representing us, and looking like us, and then we talk about the show and everything else. The only thing I didn't like is I wanted to do the real thing. I wanted to be me doing the
Yeah.
segments of the investigation, not being just interviewed, right? So
Right.
Ghost Encounters went big. Then we got approached by 2015. Haunted Case Files were just starting out. They were just a big media show by Blue Ant Productions in Toronto, and then they got syndicated to Travel Channel and then to TNE. So they were banking on it, crossing fingers. We didn't know if it was going to work. So we did all these episodes, and nobody knew if it was going to be broadcast, right? It was just like, well, we'll just do it and see what happens. So I did 3 episodes on Haunted Case Files, and bang, it was the biggest one. As soon as it hit the doors running, we got over 5-10 million views across the U.S. and Canada alone. Just phenomenal. Wow. Just bang. First episode, bang. Second one we did, bang. We did a forbidden funeral home, bang. Holy cow. And I had I swear to God, I was watching it on TV, and I must have had 200 or 300 emails in the same night. We want you here. We like the show. We want this and that. And then I was getting about 5,000 emails the whole week. I couldn't keep up. It just went big. I don't even know how we did it. The formula worked so well that other shows were trying to copy it. Haunted Case was the biggest one, and then we went Haunted Case Files 2, which came out. They weren't going to do it. They weren't going to continue, but we came out in 2018. Let's try it again, and we did the Haunted Island, and that was my first episode of the second season.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was I shit my pants on that one because it was all real. Everything we did was like, oh my God, this was happening, and I was sitting in my office watching, and I had to hide under my desk. That's how reenactment well it was done for the demons and the activity. It scared the shit out of me, really.
No kidding.
Because it really happened. Everything we did. Yeah. Haunted Case Files is really well done. They do really good reenactments. They really capture the story. They're fair, they're honest, and they don't make things up. They were one of the few that didn't do anything. After there was a slew of different other TV things that were coming out trying to copy us, but Haunted Case Files still stands as the best, I think. And then came along Ghost.
Sitting from the outside, from individuals who've never been on a set before or any kind of set, what was it like being on one of these sets? Can you explain the environment and what it's like with the takes?
Yeah, it's really in your face. Okay, if you're not used to cameras and lights, it scares you. Like you kind of like rev up to it. Have a drink or something because you're right in their face. The cameras are right there, and they see your eyes. They see glistening. They see your hair. And if you don't look right, they don't want you for the camera. It's just like that's the way it is. Sadly, hundreds of people have been turned down on TV shows because you don't look good on the camera. We don't want you. And then, regardless of how good you are, sadly, they want you to look good and feel good and act natural. And then, luckily, I'm very photogenic. I got on and I was fine. But I mean, I was always on TV shows and they said, you always look like a rock star, but you're a musician, here it goes hunters. Yeah. Like, well, this is me. I'm a natural guy, right? So yeah, I was just being myself and being positive and presenting myself. And we did auditions too. So if they didn't like you, they said, well, let's see audition goes. If we see you good on camera, you sound good and you sound honest, you're not making it up. Because they can tell if you're not making it up. They can see your body language. They can see your throat. You can looking up in the air. They know you're full of shit if you're not making it up, right?
Of course, yeah.
So we had the real stuff. They liked our stories so much. And they said, we're going out there. We're paying for all. We went to the island. We went out there. We spent a weekend. Oh my God! And so we went to Haunted Island in Ontario, in Muskoka, and we were left there in the dark in this haunted island. Right? It was an island. It was all broken down. It was basically a huge event, a place for the rich. It was a playground for the rich. And Marilyn Monroe was there before. Frank Sinatra was all being torn down because it was where they would go and party and drink and have good times. And Ella Fitzgerald was there, and many people were there. It was famous. I can't disclose the location,
Of course.
but it was all being torn down. But we were the last opportunity to get in, record what we could, document history. We were really going in to document history. I had no idea the thing was haunted. I thought, oh, this is a great place. It's all a banquet place. It's like, was a a dance place, a dance floor, everything else. Very cool. 3 levels, phenomenal. It was just phenomenal building. It was gorgeous. It looked like Titanic on the land. That's how it was. Like we were going through rooms, and it was like on land. This whole thing was sinking. It was me and another investigator named Michelle, and we were left there on a boat. We dropped off to ourselves. We had all our equipment. We had everything going. We had all our lights. We had powered up. Everything was powered. We had everything, man. We had like $50,000 worth of equipment. Phenomenal. There's no way we could have, We went up there and we had everything was powered. We didn't need electricity. But you know what? The damn thing all went out after 2 hours. It was completely drained. By 11 o'clock at night in the dark, we were completely drained. Nothing was working. No recording, no sound. I'm going, okay, this is it. And we literally heard, we heard things going along. We heard Indian sounds. We heard spirits. We heard whoops. We heard chanting. Something that we were following, that we were hunting, now was following us. I got really scared. It's the first time in life I really was scared of anything.
You became the prey.
Freaked the shit out of me. It was a full moon in October, and oh my God. And all we were doing was running everywhere because things were chasing us everywhere. We're going, oh my God, it's coming. And we hear like big sounds, bang sounds, and heavy foot sounds, and bang and growls and screams and holy shit. And we're going, we got to be here till 7 in the morning. Good luck if we survive. I thought I was going to die. I really did. I had to have flares and everything. And we had to stay in one spot in the main entrance because that's the only way we could see what was coming in and coming out around us. Because we had to figure a strategy. Well, what are we going to do? We're going to get bombarded by these things coming, and now they're hunting us. And it wasn't just spirits. These things were like, I think, part Indian demon entities, or from native folklore that was made up, Wendigos. And these were fucking big. I swear to God, I was like, oh my God. That's like, did you see that? It's only 9 feet tall. It went past the door outside the building, and I'm going, this is not good.
Yeah, wow.
I swear. And we only had flashlights, and flashlights were going down too. And I couldn't believe it. We were in this situation, and we got recordings before everything happened, went down. We got actually sound recordings of these things and growls and everything coming at us. And I remember it just, the one thing that we were upstairs, and this thing was coming at us, okay? It was like a movie. Just this huge thing. It was like a misty red black thing. And all you did was see red eyes. Pure red eyes. It looked like a werewolf or something. And it went, I said, Michelle, run. And she literally pushed me on the side. We both fell on the ground. The thing right past us and jumped on the ground. And the whole dust, the whole floor went up like this. I was going, oh my God. And it went, was it like right on my face. I'm going,
was it like Skinwalker related?
I literally crawled down
related?
I felt it was. And it just didn't want us there. And it had us, it had us at our lead at the end of the rope. It had us by the throat and go, oh my God, I was getting scratched. I was getting cut. We left in the morning, we had cut marks, blood marks. I had cut scrapes on my throat. I had scratch marks, 3-fingered claw marks. And when the camera crew came and finally came in the morning, they go, what happened to you guys? You could beat each other up or what?
Yeah,
no, and it was like, holy shit. And I would never go back there. I don't care if you paid me $1 million. I would never, well, the whole thing collapsed and caved in later anyway. But we did a whole story on our magazines. And then we did the show. And they captured it pretty well to life, what happened. It looked just like that.
No kidding.
Scared the shit out of me. Worst thing I've ever dealt with.
Yeah, that sounds pretty intense, especially with the Native American part. When you said the Wendigo and possibly a Skinwalker, that's nothing to really fuck with.
Well, the Indians made the Wendigos to protect them, but a lot of them they made them in a way to manifest, and the manifestation took over into evil, and then it became attacking the natives, right? So this is a lot of stories that you hear, and they would drag them to the water and drown them. So if you saw them, you were dead. They were pulled into the water. I said, don't look at them. Don't look at them. Then whatever you don't look at them, because they drag it to the lake. And I believe they were trying to do that because Michelle was being dragged everywhere, and she's helped me. I literally had to jump on her to stop her from being pulled across the ground into the lake.
Wow.
It was phenomenal. Very physical. I mean, if you've ever had a demon encounter, this was the one you'd never want to be with.
Yeah. And this was something more too, even like more so the demonic that we're talking about. Like, well, this would be almost like not even cryptids. It would be something just absolutely supernatural when we're talking about things like this.
It's the spiritual, the ultimate that you hear about from the, different men and people in the 60s and log camps. Everything that the folklore is, the Wendigo and all, is based on what they've seen, and I really believe that. And we were hit bad, so it took me like 2 days to recover. When we finally got to the car, I couldn't breathe. I like drinking water, was dehydrated. We had basically psychic hangover. Basically we had that really bad. My head was just humming. I was just hurting everywhere inside and going, oh my God. I couldn't think straight. All I could see was just black and hands and demon and fingers and claws around me for a week, about a day.
And now, before you guys went into these locations, you guys didn't do any kind of like protection, any kind of protection spells or anything like that?
Well, I'm pretty grounded, and so was she. I was using black obsidian, onyx. Demons didn't care. They just jump on you. Like, it's not just, you're not dealing with a ghost. And you can say what you want. You're dealing with something supernatural that just of the underworld. That's something that walks between worlds, And I really have to say that from the other demon experiences I've had, which I've had encountered, but not to that extent, we're more like the minions and the scouts. But this was the ultimate face in, face out, get out, or I'm gonna fucking kill you. That's it. It was going for our throat. That was it.
No shit.
I never went back. We were offered, I think, some producer offered me $50,000 to go back. So I'm not going back. I don't care. I said, oh, it's cool. No, it goes when you're out in the dark and you're out. How it is in the dark and night, and there's nothing there, and your senses take over. There's nothing that compares to that. Right. When you're now being hunted by something like a dog or a bad wolf dog or something, that's how it felt between worlds. It was between a half wolf animal thing and some giant evil demon thing.
Are these going to be in the pages of the book you're working on? Because I want to talk about that and let everyone know.
Yeah, I've captured the stories, and I have another cool story that I published as well. Cool. It was in another book that I found was really important. It happened a couple years earlier with a friend of mine named Carol, and she was a psychic researcher, and it's called Church of Demons. And one of the networks wants to pick. Netflix is interested in picking it up, by the way, but it's a really cool story. It's really cool. I'll just give you a brief synopsis. But I was it's in Burlington, by the way, and it's by one of the oldest churches, oldest cemeteries that are here, and it's being protected by something, the land, again, Indian native ground, because it's part of Joseph Tayanaga. Tayanaga was the British Indian captain who led the forces against the Americans, who fought with the British. So he was very well known and famous, and he got awarded all kinds of awards and land for the whole area of Burlington. He was well known, and he in his service he was awarded 3,500 acres. Anyway, he is buried at the church of this property, and it's all protected by native ground, native Indians. A lot of the natives are buried underneath the church. He died in 1869. You can tell like how old this is. One of the oldest cemeteries. Anyway, it's protected. So there's something there, and I kind of conjured it up, and I went there, and I was kind of warned, because most demons entities warn you. I don't know if anybody knows that, but they warn you before that, because they're going to say, well, okay, I'm going to give you a shot. I'm going to warn you, but I'm going to come after you and kill you later. And they will warn you. And I was told, like, I heard this voice in my head, get out. Don't come here. Just get out. Leave. Just like that. An Indian voice, right? So I'm in there recording and videotaping with Carol, and we're walking around, and this giant big mist comes flying around from the back of the cemetery, and that's really haunted. That's where shadow creatures are, and shadow things and ghosts and everything else are here. And the cemetery is like 200 years old, but it's active. It's super active. And I go there with the ghost tours, right? Anyway, I'm walking around with her and me, and we have full access to the church. The church said, "Can we document this?" "Oh yeah, no problem. We're doing this thing with shows. We want to document." "Are you still there?" "Yeah." And we went in. It was probably around 6, 7 o'clock because the church let the doors open. Right, nobody was allowed in. No problem.
Right.
Very haunted church. And I wanted to pick up ghosts. So all the ghosts were coming out of the basement, literally coming out. We could hear French soldiers, British soldiers, guys with guns. All this stuff was coming around, right? All of a sudden, I hear this big voice saying, "Get out." And it was the whole room. It wasn't just a voice. It was all surround sound. And I'm going, okay. And I start walking, and I'm just like numb. I'm like stopped in my tracks. I can't move. All of a sudden, there's a huge altar. There's a cross on the altar. There's a gold cross. There's all kinds of, panels, nice drapes, everything else, all red, the whole bit, church. And there's a Christ, hanging from the ceiling, right, across the whole bit, right? It's a very old religious French church, French Jesuit. Anyway, start walking, and all of a sudden, poof, the whole altar goes on fire. The whole cross goes on fire. It's all burning. Oh my God. Now what? And Carolyn's outside. And I'm going, help. I'm running out loud. And then all of a sudden she tries to run. The door is literally, the heavy oak door slam. Bang. And I'm going, holy shit. I can't move. I'm starting to walk. I'm trying to walk like it's like cement. And I hear this screaming voice just everywhere, like this, everywhere, like a witch, half man, half evil.
Yeah.
All this wind starts swirling. Fire is going up. All the drapes go on fire. All the smoke is bellowing. I'm going, oh my God, I'm going to die. And it's all coming. Like you feel scratches and cutting. Something's attacking me, pulling me back into the floors. Something's coming out from the floors. And I'm going, this is it. I don't know what to do. I can't breathe. I can't move. I'm screaming. I said, "Carol, open the door. I can't get to the door." Everything's burning up, and there's screams and wind everywhere, like a hurricane. In this room, all the altars burn, the whole flames burn, and then I hear this laughing and cackling. Ha 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 ha, yeah, like, and it was echoing too, like a movie. I swear to God. And he goes, "Oh my God!" And I'm banging. I finally get to the doors. I drop on the doors. The whole thing just opens up. And all this smoke billows out, black smoke. Everything goes flying out. Karen goes flying down the stairs. I fall down the stairs. I look back. There's just smoke everywhere, fire the whole bit. And she goes, "What are you talking about?" And I'm burnt. I'm cut, right? I'm smoking. My arm's on fire the whole bit. I'm just really hurt. I need water. I'm hurt. She sees me all burned and clawed up. Look back. There's nothing there. Nothing. No. Everything's like, there's not, the whole house is fine. Everything's like clear. There's the drape. Where's the fire? What are you talking about? Where's the fire? You're the one in fire. I'm going, so was it a visual illusion? What? Was it meant to be an illusion? Was it visually implanted in my head? But I felt pain. I felt all the cuts. I had burns. I had claw marks. I had deep marks in my chest. I had claw marks everywhere. Three finger claw marks. Blood everywhere. Yeah. And she goes, I couldn't believe it. It just, the Trinity is why it is like that, right? The evil is against the Trinity, the demons, because Father, Son, Holy Ghost. That's why this is the Trinity. They cut you and scratch you against God, right? And I went downstairs. I had a document. I had some of it in video, and it all got erased. Believe it or not, I was recording it, and it all got erased. The ghost made it all erased. I only had parts of it that I went in. The doors closed. The rest was all erased, and I was pissed because I had a great video. I survived, went to the car, literally crawled to the car, looked back, and the doors just closed again by themselves, automatically.
No shit.
Freakiest thing ever happened. And it's like, oh my God. That was before Haunted Case Files. That was one of the first. And all we saw was this black mist around the door. Huge, like a tumbleweed ball. Like a huge black mist, like 20 feet tall, just staring at us. Just staring at us, like going around staring at us. And I said, let's just leave. Give me water, and like I'm out of here. And I was just, she had to get wounds. I went to the hospital. I was cut everywhere. Just so phenomenal.
That entire visual, what would that technically be? Like a supernatural, like hallucination that they just kind of gave you?
They posed it on there. That makes it. I can smell the smoke. I can smell the burning. I can smell the flames. I can smell the heat. I can feel the heat. I could going into my lungs. Everything was so imposed visually on me.
Right.
This was actually happening, and nothing happened at all. And it was just phenomenal. I mean, we did get some visual of sparks, of things going in the lights and sparks after demons
Right.
disappeared. They go in the lights and it's all sparks, everything else. But that was the end of it. And I left. I didn't come back from there. And then to this day, I don't even do the ghost walks around that part of the church anymore.
And
I'm
that's
scared
going to
to
be
death to go part of it.
that's going to be in your book, right?
Yeah, it's called Church of Demons, and it's freaks the shit out of me. To this day, I had nightmares for about a month on that.
I was going to ask you
Luckily,
if you get flashbacks or dreams and shit.
Well, I
of this.
do. Like nothing came back to haunt me at home because I'm grounded and I'm a true believer of positive and light. I walk in the light, and things just like when I have done tours, they follow me home. They usually dissipate and they come back. They're curious. They come in my room. They disappear and they're around. They go the next day. So when I have done a lot of tours and things, they have appeared. But it was not to that extent. So it was grounded again, you know?
Yeah. All right. Well, we're coming to the end of our time, but I want to get a few more things out. I want to let everyone know about your book. So explain your book, how you finished it, when it's arriving and stuff like that. So explain this entire process for your book and what it's about.
I started working on this about a year. Yeah, it's called True Encounters of the Paranormal, Demonic Activity, and I started this about 2 years ago because it's not just about being a ghost hunter or being a person. It's about walking between worlds, walking between the really supernatural and things that have happened to me, and maybe it can shed light on someone else who has got experiences, who've done things, and don't know what to do and how to deal with it.
Right.
And you always follow your gut. You always your gut feeling, right? So I think it's a good reference for somebody who wants to learn and know more. And it's actually, most people have never come face to face with life and death or demons.
Right.
So it's going to be coming out hopefully by September 10th. Like I said, it's on Amazon.com coming out, and it'll be on Barnes and Noble. And it's going to be a big book. It's about 300 pages, and it's got a lot of good stories in there, and just documented things that there's not about ghost stories. These are real life things that have led up to things that have happened in my life and why I was haunted and what started. So I've got from my house I grew up, to demons, to activity, to more possessions, to being possessed from another house, and then dealing with another possession, and then TV shows being on a set where the whole camera crew was being possessed, and then city TV was being attacked, demons of that nature that were happening and throwing all the cameras around. So I have that too in the book.
That's awesome.
So a lot of stuff that is, you just don't find this anywhere. You can't make this stuff up. And I spent a lot of time seriously researching it because I wanted it to be true to my heart. And if somebody can learn from it and can understand it, and I can help them, and they're going through the same thing, because we don't know what's on the other side. We don't.
Right.
You know, and nobody can be an expert. No matter how much you say, we don't know. We can't be an expert on the other side. And I never call myself an expert because I'm very experienced, but I know I'll never say that because you don't know. And every day is a new journey. Every day is a new thing.
I'm with you on that one, my friend, and that's kind of why we do this.
So I think it's going to be good. It's pretty. I'll send you the cover. I'll send you the cover, but it's pretty phenomenal. A lot of people are going, "Wow, this is really graphic and scary," and I go, "Well, this is real. This isn't made up." And a lot of some of the episodes are in the book are been on TV shows as well.
Yeah. Well, cool. I'll definitely get my copy. All right, you're talking about your ghost tours are coming back too. Let's talk about that and what's the process of this of all this.
Well, thank God we're getting back into that again. People can be normal and carrying on doing ghost tours in Burlington. I do about 2 hours of it, and I combine it again with history too. It's not just ghosts; it's what happened and the fading history that's going on in most towns, most cities now. Our people, the culture is changing that nobody cares anymore about our history, and history is what made us to the present. And if you don't have history, if you don't have the past, you don't have the present. And I'm thankful I can do that. I'm thankful I can be a historian, and I'm thankful I can bring out tours and people who are seriously, generally interested in the afterlife ghosts and hauntings.
Love it. All right, Patrick. All right, go everyone. Go check out Patrick at Burlington.
Again, the main thing, like,
go ahead.
BurlingtonGhostWalks.ca is my main website. There's a lot of pictures on there from the ghost walks and the actual tours. And I'm always on Facebook as Patrick Cost Ghosts. You can always see me up there with postings and new stuff. And of course, thanking you, Dominic, for having me on and sharing experiences and sharing the ability to tell people all this stuff that it is worth doing, and it's a lot of fun, but you got to be protected. You got to be serious, and you got to be, have some senses. You just can't go out and do this stuff without something that you might happen. There's always that fear. Just be protected and do your best, and just be honest with yourself.
Absolutely. And I want to say to you, thank you very much, Patrick, for being on my show tonight. It's a pleasure. I'm a fan of yours as well. I think you do great work. I've seen you a few years back, so I'll always follow your work, my friend. So thank you for everything that you do in the paranormal field. At this point, I'm going to bring you down. I'm going to say goodbye to you, my friend, but I'm just going to bring you down. We could talk afterwards for a moment. I'm just going to close up the show for a moment. And Patrick, thank you for being on, brother.
I appreciate it. All the best. Thanks.
Absolutely. All right, guys, that was another episode of Back from the Dead, the near-death experience, and more, some paranormal. We've got a lot of shows coming up. I want to tell everyone, check out the other shows on BB3 TV. We've got the Paranormal Brew. We've got the Witchwood Herbal Shop. We've got Off the Cuff. We've got Dom and Tom's World coming back. Of course, we've got the Sideshow. And California Dreamer. We got some other ones coming up. We got some jewelry shows coming up, as I said before. We're working with Inner Demons Media. Check them out. Go like, share, and follow for sure. A great individual on there. Some great shows, great content, radio, and all. B3 is working its way up, and we're all about variety and just having having a good time, pushing entertainment out there. So be sure to like, share, follow, subscribe, and by all means, enjoy. Thank you for watching BB3 TV.
Hey, it's Chaos Unright. Y'all go check out my new popcorn, Cinnamon Chaos, at GoodStuffsKettleCornEmporium.com. And don't forget to go follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. See you guys later.